let's get right into the main topic today. It's listen, I couldn't wait to do this show ever since this fight happened. I've been seeing all kinds of stuff online about it, and of course, I'm talking about the Alexander Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven. And listen, I was wrong. I was the guy last week who was saying, don't even watch it. Don't even worry about it. It's not going to be competitive. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be that. That was me. And man, was I wrong. The truth of the matter was it shouldn't have been. But here's the thing. I'm going to discuss some things about this fight. As you all know, the bottom line is it was stopped. It's going on record as being stopped at 2 minutes and 59 seconds of the 11th round. First of all, the bell sounded. Okay. First of all, the bell sounded. So it was actually the end of the round. The fight should have never been stopped. I mean, a good referee, if he's in danger, fine, but if he's able to walk back to his corner, that's what the break period's for. And then keep a close eye. If he came out in any kind of, negative shape, you stop the fight then. Hey, let's go back 2 weeks ago when Fabio Wardley fought Daniel Dubois, and he was staggering around after the round was over. At the beginning of another round, he was staggering around the ring, not once but twice, and the referee didn't stop it. So please, that stoppage was fishy. Then the other thing that really got me. You really got me. But what really got me going was the scorecards that were publicized after the fight. Listen, if the referee didn't help Usyk win this fight, the judges surely were gonna, because they had the fight even. I was shocked to see that after 10 rounds, the fight was even 95-95 on two of the scorecards. And the third scorecard actually had Verhoeven up 96 to 94. And look, normally I don't even pay attention to the broadcast unofficial official ring scorer. I usually don't, because but I did not score this fight. I didn't think it was going to be competitive at all, so I didn't even bother to break out my scorecard. But I was kind of agreeing with what the broadcast team was saying. Up to the stoppage, maybe I gave Usyk 2 rounds, maybe. It was look. Usyk landed some punches. Obviously, Rico was open for the uppercut, but they didn't do any damage. Except for the one. But he was trying to, but he couldn't land more than one shot. Look. Here's the deal. All right. Let me explain something to you guys. Rico Verhoeven did something in that fight that is rare today, but should be done by every single fighter. And here's a guy who fought one professional boxing match, one. And granted, he's been training with Peter Fury. But here's the thing. And I want you all to think about this fight for a second, especially any fighters that happen to be watching this show right now or listening to the podcast version. Listen to me right now. Here's the deal. The reason why Rico Verhoeven was so successful in this fight, and he was, whether you want to admit it or not, he was extremely successful. And you want to know why? You want to know why? Because of head movement. He was moving his head and moving his upper body to a fault. It kind of looked funny. But guess what? The guy who they're putting in the Hall of Fame already, the guy who they're saying is an all-time great already, the guy they were saying, is this outrageously on top, pound-for-pound fighter in Alexander Usyk, couldn't hit him. He couldn't hit him. Now, I'm not saying that Usyk isn't, going to go down as an all-time great when his career is finally over. But let's be real. How many fighters have you seen in the last 10 years that utilize head movement? How many? And here's the reason why they don't. They don't have any good trainers anymore. They have rah-rah men. They don't have trainers that are instilling upon them to move their head. The last guy that moved his head that I recall on a regular basis was Mike Tyson, and that was an early Mike Tyson. Okay. Fighters should all watch this tape of Rico Verhoeven. And here's the other thing. The other part of the stoppage that bothered me was the fact that what little we knew about Rico Verhoeven was he had been down many times in his karate or martial arts, whatever kickboxing, whatever he was. I don't even know. All right, what he was a world champion in. Okay, and he many times he was down and got up to win. All right. They should have given him a chance. That stoppage was uncalled for. And listen, I am all for the safety of the fighter, 100% safety for the fighter. Okay. Um, this particular fight, the referee wasn't doing his job if he didn't hear the bell. Either that or the timekeeper wasn't doing his job by ringing it loud enough. I mean, people were going crazy. I get it. Uh, but come on. Look. What bothered me more wasn't the stoppage because let's be real, Usyk had to win that fight. There's no way. I mean, they're calling for a rematch. You know, look, here's my thoughts, and I was beaten up about this on social media for some reason. A lot of fight fans out there, specifically young fight fans, because the older fight fans get it. All right. Sorry, no disrespect to you youngins out there. But Moses Ituma, who I strongly believe is part of the future of the heavyweight division. Make no mistake, he is. All right. But he's not there yet. And trust me, I see and read and listen to people tell me how great he is and how he can destroy Usyk right now. And he's this and he's that. You know what? He has totally displayed that he's got great footwork, great movement, a good jab, and devastating power. He has already displayed that. We all saw it, you know. But here's the thing. He hasn't displayed it against any top fighter at all. A true top 10 fighter, top 12 fighter that's not in a bias sanctioning body, because the sanctioning bodies, when I break down the fights later, you'll see what I mean. But, a legitimate ranking, either a computer ranking or I'd even accept the Ring or ESPN's rankings if he beats a top guy. But here's the thing. The perfect fight to test Ituma, hopefully they'll sign it. They're talking about Hergervik. But how about Rico? How about Rico Verhoeven? Let me ask you this. Who's going to fight him? Do you think there's any of these heavyweights out there that are pounded on their chest and saying that they should be fighting Usyk for a world title would even have the balls to step in the ring with Rico Verhoeven after the performance against Usyk? All these fighters that have never faced a fighter with head movement, and all of a sudden they're watching the tape and they're saying to themselves, how are you supposed to hit this guy? How are you supposed to hit him? I mean, how do you hit him? How do you hit him? A trainer would tell you that you got to cut the ring off. You got to stop the movement. If you stop the movement, you get a stationary target. The thing about Verhoeven was that he wasn't just moving his head. He was moving his arms and his body, and it was very hard to set up for a punch. I see this guy as a tough out. I was totally happy watching that fight. And let me say another thing. Let me tell you another thing. I gave kudos to the broadcast team for their scoring because I thought it was accurate, at least while I was watching the fight. I did, and I still believe so. But now let's get a knock on the broadcast team, because, and I don't recall who said it, but one of them said, look at the size of Rico Van Hooven's legs. He's never going to be able to stay on those legs for 12 rounds. What? Are you kidding me? What are you talking about? They were massive. They were tree trunks. There's the definition of a tree trunk legs. Go look at Rico Van Hooven's legs. All right. But that tells me, yes, they're muscular. And yes, they could drain oxygen out of your system. But that tells me that's a guy that worked pretty damn hard on his cardio. All right. You don't get legs like that just doing leg lifts and doing weight related training. Coach is in the chat room right now. Hook me up with that, Coach. Am I right? Am I wrong? I mean, that this guy obviously did plenty of cardio. He didn't look like he was tiring at all. Hats off to Usyk. If anybody didn't think he could take a punch, I mean, some of those, unless Rico has no pop, which I just can't believe that. He was landing some shots on Usyk, and Usyk had to get away, and Usyk wasn't able to land multiple punches against Rico. The bottom line is, I mean, here's the thing. Here's the truth. As much as I love the performance by Rico Van Hooven, and as much as I think he kind of got robbed, and when I say robbed, I mean robbed of a chance to continue the fight. Okay, I think he deserved. I think his dominating fight to that point deserved a second chance. Okay, with all that said, Rico Van Hooven. Now I know he can make a boatload of money by fighting Usyk again. All right. There's no doubt that he would make a boatload of money. But rest assured, there is no way that that Usyk would perform the way he did against Rico the second time. Usyk is too smart of a fighter, and he will make the adjustment to a fighter that moved as much as Rico. But I really hope that some of these rah-rah trainers who watch this have an epiphany, an epiphany, and says and say to themselves, hey, you know what? Maybe I should start teaching my fighters a little bit of head movement. Maybe they won't get hit as much.